Yeah, so hi everyone, and welcome to our chat on NFTs and sustainability at Concave Summit. So, Concave Summit is an independent summit exploring the convergence of sustainability and social impact with technology through the lens of culture and community. My name is Qiyun, and I'm a digital creator and environmentalist behind the page The Weird and Wild on Instagram, and that's where I communicate complex climate issues in accessible ways. And joining me today will be Moon HMZ from Malaysia NFT to talk about reconciling the world of NFTs and sustainability. And we're based in Southeast Asia, so hello to everybody watching us online. So, Moon HMZ, why don't you tell me a little bit more about how Malaysia NFT started and what are NFTs?
So MalaysiaNFT started earlier this year, around April, or was it March? I can't remember, but it started when I got involved in NFTs and I was looking to connect with other Malaysian artists who were doing NFTs as well. But I couldn't really find other Malaysian artists, and there wasn't like a community or anything. So that's why I started MalaysiaNFT to be able to connect other Malaysian NFT artists with each other, because at that point we were all kind of like just individuals like scattered around. We didn't know anything about each other. So from there, I wanted to build like a community where we can, share tips, and we have like more localized like a point of view, right? That we can share with each other. So yeah, and from there we kind of like earlier in the year there was like only like 5 people who were involved in NFTs, and slowly that number grew and grew and grew. So yeah, so MalaysiaNFT is here to support all Malaysian artists who want to get involved in NFTs. We provide education, we provide minting funds, and we have the Discord to help people get familiar around NFTs if they have any questions, for example, or if they want to connect with other Malaysian artists. So yeah, that's where MalaysiaNFT comes in. And NFTs stands for non-fungible tokens. So what that means is it's it's a certified digital asset on a blockchain, and it's unique in a way where, okay, if, for example, if you have a $1 bill or like a 1 ringgit, that is fungible. So you can exchange it with another $1 bill, for example, it's the same. But for example, if you have a famous celebrity who suddenly signs the $1 bill, then that becomes non-fungible. It doesn't have the same value as just any other $1 bill. Another person compared it to, like, I have a dog, I have a pet dog, and you have a dog, and they're both dogs, and they might be even the same breeds, but we can't just like exchange them and be like, yeah, it's the same. It's a dog is a dog, right? But this is my dog. It's unique. It has its own personality, and it's not the same as any other dog. So that's what makes it non-fungible. So every piece is unique. And what an NFT doesn't have to be art. An NFT can be, for example, there's NBA Top Shots, which are like digital trading cards of iconic shots in basketball recorded by NBA. There's realtors who use it to kind of like certify property, for example. So yeah, it can be used in a variety of different ways. It's just that art just so happens to be one of the most popular applications to use NFTs. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's so cool because I mean, from what I've researched, whatever little that I know is that these NFTs can be bought, sold, and traded on these platforms, and it's also a very good way for artists to profit from the work that we have created and things like that. And from what I also understand, that usually, I guess, the transaction that happens is in cryptocurrency. And as the space gains prominence, people are also becoming very concerned about the carbon emissions that's generated by cryptocurrency, by all these, the boom of these digital platforms. And I'm just curious, what have you heard about sustainability relating to NFTs, if at all?
So when I first started doing NFTs, at that time, I think I was only aware of one blockchain. So there are different blockchains. There's not just one. So the most popular one to use NFTs for is on a blockchain that's called Ethereum. So this is actually where most of the concern comes from, because Ethereum, the blockchain, uses a consensus mechanism, which is called proof of work. So in layman terms, this means that it requires a lot of energy because all the participants of the blockchain need to kind of like prove they get rewarded based on like how hard they work. So there's actually other blockchains which use a very different consensus mechanisms, the most popular one being proof of stake. So proof of stake, the participants of the blockchain are awarded or are rewarded based on how much they stake onto the blockchain. So this requires a lot less energy. Just to compare, like Ethereum and Bitcoin's energy, it can, some people say like it's like although it's inaccurate, some people say like minting an NFT is like on the Ethereum blockchain is like enough to power a whole country, for example. Whereas proof of stake blockchain, if you mint there, it's the same as a tweet. So those numbers are a bit exaggerated because NFTs themselves are not the ones that are causing the emissions. It's the network itself, the blockchain, the mining process behind it. That's what uses a lot of energy. Whether you mint an NFT or not, the miners will mine. So think of it as like a plane. And the plane is going, and whether you're on it or not, the plane is going to fly. So so whether you choose to be on that plane, that's a different that's a different story. So when I learned about Ethereum's energy usage, I started researching, and I joined Qiyun NFTs, which is a Discord group where we kind of researched and kind of like find our way around how are we going to do NFTs without the whole massive carbon footprint. And basically what we're advocating towards is to use proof of stake blockchains. Yeah, so that's one of the ways in which you can do NFTs without using a lot of energy. For example, Ethereum, the mining rigs can notoriously be like warehouse sizes full of GPUs, which is very energy intensive. And one of the blockchains that I'm on, which is called Tezos, a node or a validator on the blockchain, they can run simply on like a Raspberry Pi. Yeah, so yeah, and it can be, of course, it can be solar powered or whatever. So it's the more you kind of like learn about the technological aspects and like the different types of blockchains, the more you know that like not all blockchains are created equal. There are different types, and they have a lot of different kind of mechanisms going on.
Yeah, so from what I'm hearing, it's about the platform, and it's also about how the currencies are being mined or and generating these emissions. And NFTs in itself is not really, I guess, as much as you are part of the system, but what is creating the emissions in itself is not the fault of NFTs, but the very
Yeah.
fact that even our internet now, it's being run by data centers that could not be on solar power. And am I,
Yeah.
making that analogy correct?
Yeah, so I think when the conversation started around like the environmental impact, a lot of people started attacking artists on Twitter, for example, like, hey, did you know when you mint this NFT, you're basically burning down a whole rainforest or something, which is obviously it's wrong, and the the thing that you have to think about is as opposed to doing NFTs, for example, some of these artists, they depended on merchandise sales. So merchandise sales, there's the manufacturing of it, and then you have to do the shipping, which is also when you add it up is actually a lot when it comes to the carbon footprint, right? And for example, if you want to make $1,000 on NFTs and then $1,000 from merchandise sales, you will have to do a lot more merchandise sale to reach that number. So it's kind of like you kind of have to kind of evaluate which one is more efficient for you. So that's why I wouldn't kind of encourage people to attack artists, because there's a lot of different reasonings on people doing NFTs, but I do want artists who want to get involved in NFTs to know that the energy intensive blockchains aren't the only choice for you to use. Yeah.
Yeah, and I really love that, because as a digital creator myself, there's always that dilemma of, do I create much? Do I not create much? I mean, as an activist for environmental issues, creating much comes with manufacturing costs, which are also not entirely ethical. The entire supply chain is flawed. And when I read about NFTs, like you said, I was seeing a lot of hate online that says NFTs are destroying the world. You have clickbait titles to say NFTs are destroying rainforests. And I've also heard from artists to say actually that's a very flawed understanding, because artists are not creators or generators themselves. They
Yeah.
are, and I'm so glad to hear about clean NFTs, which are essentially advocating for cleaner, structures to allow us to create art, to sell and buy art in a way that is honestly, better than our existing systems. And it's really great to hear. So something that I've been picking up is that, people are talking about how NFT as creators are turning to offsets or carbon offsets as a way to deal with the emissions that comes with producing NFT. So what is your take on that?
Funnily enough, even in the Clean NFT Discord, there's a lot of different views when it comes to offsets. There's a lot of heated debate in the Discord, which we encourage. We don't encourage like arguing just for the sake of arguing, but we do encourage like very productive debates so that people can understand and like really delve into the subject. So there's actually a camp that says, offsets are just like greenwashing. For example, it's not really solving the problem. And it's kind of like offsets were kind of like a product of the oil and gas industry themselves to kind of like make people feel better and like kind of to kind of greenwash themselves. And then there's another camp which says like, we have our own individual responsibility and our own like guilt or whatever, and sometimes we have to do things which aren't particularly environment friendly, like sometimes people have to fly here and there, for example, and offsets is one of the ways in which they can participate and then like kind of like pay it back to Mother Nature, for example. For me, I'm kind of like in the middle. I don't want to use offsets as a way as just to kind of like please the guilt or like kind of just like put a band-aid on the situation. But I do think that kind of lambasting the whole offset industry as a whole isn't also the right way to do it. I think the right way to do it is, of course, to continue to advocate for cleaner energy usage, and where, you know, the holes that you can't fill out, then maybe you can offset. That's my personal view.
Yeah,
But
and
it's a divisive topic for sure.
it is. And I think even in like environmental communities, carbon offsets is often, like you said, right? It could be used as a way out for very pollutive industries, but at the same time, we can recognize that there is some part to play that offsets in making sure that, you know, we are giving back whatever we can, especially if we're existing in systems that are not the greenest yet. And I'm just curious, you know, have you ever considered or at least created NFTs to raise money for organizations that, you know, you believe in, or there's a cause that you're contributing to? Does that happen?
Yeah, so I have a number of times done kind of like fundraisers using my NFTs. And this is after I already discovered Qiyun NFTs. So I've donated to Women's Aid Organization in Malaysia, which is an organization that kind of like shelters victims of abuse. So that was one of the fundraising campaigns in which I used money from an auction. And then there's also different causes, such as like when Palestine was under attack. And then there's the COVID situation in Malaysia. So I minted like a large editions of artworks. And I kind of like put different prices on them. For example, like $1, $5, $10, $100. And people could buy whichever edition price that they want to donate to. So they could choose how much they are comfortable donating. And we've raised a lot of money using that kind of mechanism. And just to compare, when I first learned of the environmental impact of NFTs, before that, I was going to auction off a piece of artwork. And then when I learned about that, and before I kind of knew about clean NFTs, when I was in the in-between stage, I didn't feel it was right to auction off the artwork on a proof of work blockchain with the intense energy usage. So I resorted to selling my merchandise. And the whole campaign lasted for a month, and I got, you know, I got a lot of support. It was very warmly received, and a bunch of people bought my merchandise, and I only raised like 100 ringgit, which is probably like $30, as opposed to when I did the NFT fundraisers, I could raise like even like $1,000 in a matter of days. Yeah, so I think that from my personal experience does speak to like the effectiveness of it. And, you know, because with merchandise, you have to minus the cost of the production, and then there's like shipping costs and everything. So yeah. That's from
Wow.
my experience, yeah.
So would you say that, I guess, NFTs gives you an avenue for creating art and monetizing the art that is firstly not as logistically heavy?
Yeah, I would definitely say so.
How is that different from like creating normal digital artwork that you share as like a .png or .psd file?
It's not that much different. For example, like you can still share, like people can still view it, right? Like if you post it on Instagram for free, people can still view it. And if you mint an NFT, people can still view it even if they don't buy it. The difference is if people decide to support you, they can. And I know some detractors would say, you know, there's stuff like Patreon, for example. But Patreon, there's like a paywall in which you only reward people who pay. So that means the rest of the public won't be able to see it. And speaking from experience, only very, very popular creators or people with a lot of following can actually make a sustainable income using Patreon. When I kind of like floated the idea of, Patreon, I was met with like cricket noises. No one responded. I was like, I'm thinking of doing a Patreon. Wonder what should I do? And then like no one responded. So I was like, okay, I guess that's out of the question. So yeah. And I would like to say that when people like, there are doubters who kind of like say like, oh, NFTs like are a scam because like you're paying the creator. I'm like, okay, you don't want creators to be paid. Whereas when we kind of like post our content on Instagram or Facebook, for example, we're actually providing content to those platforms, and they are using our content to make money, and we don't get anything. And in contrast, we actually have to pay Instagram if we want to boost a post and get more eyes on it. So I like to say that Instagram is the real scam here. Yeah, which is
Yeah.
probably a controversial opinion, but that's my opinion.
Yeah, I have a friend who used to say, if you're not paying for anything to use something, you're the product.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, and I've definitely, thought about NFTs as a space to first make art accessible to people, but at the same time, credit and reward the labor of creators to say that, you deserve to be paid for certain work. And, now with that said, as now that we're moving to the conclusion of this chat, I was actually curious, what do you think needs to be done to make such platforms more sustainable? What should artists be advocating for if they want a cleaner way to make NFTs?
I think they should pressure the platforms to kind of like switch to more greener alternatives. I know that a lot of the popular platforms use Ethereum, and that creates like some kind of moral quandary for some of the artists, because they're like, I need the money, and so I think I'll do better here on a more popular platform, even though it's using proof of work or an energy intensive platform. I think the platform, you don't actually need a platform, right? The platform is the one that needs you, because you're the one that's bringing in the art. So I think by kind of like voicing out your opinions and voicing out your concerns, and kind of like switching over to other platforms that are more ecologically friendly, kind of puts pressure on the larger platforms to move quicker and to adopt more clean and clean blockchain, cleaner blockchains.
Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense, because then that also speaks to talking to regions, talking to countries, to corporations to say we need to be funding sustainable energy alternatives. We need to be advocating for policies that will allow such structures and platforms to already fundamentally be green in the first place. And, as a way to end off this conversation, I was curious, what would your parting words be for any artist that's looking to go into NFTs?
My parting words would be, okay, NFTs are liberating. They provide you some freedom, but it's not easy money. There's a lot of hard work, and there's a lot of responsibility into it. And if you want to go into it for the right reasons. Don't go to it as just like, okay, I want to make money fast, or like get the cash quick and kind of get out. It's a very heavily involved process that you have to learn, and there's actually still a lot of volatility and risk. But once you do your homework and kind of like know what you're getting into, and you're comfortable with your choices and properly educated, it is very rewarding, and it is a very supportive community, and you will get a lot more freedom in, you know, making stuff you want and getting paid for it.
Yeah, and I really love that, and I hope more people get onto the Clean NFT Discord. I definitely will be checking that out right after this. But thank you so much.
Oh, so for it,
go ahead.
yeah. So just want to know, shout out, if you want more information on clean NFTs, you can go to cleannfts.org. So clean NFT with an S, .org, and you will find a bunch of information and our Discord there.
My God, that's amazing. So thank you so much, Moon HMZ, for joining us. And for everybody tuning in, please go check out, I guess, Malaysia NFT and also our Moon HMZ's platforms, and definitely check out the Clean NFTs Discord. So thank you everybody for tuning in, and thank you for joining me on this conversation. Thank you.